How's it going, everyone? Sessiion here. Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV. We have ourselves an article for patch 7.5, the Road to the Beyond interview, as well as the journey to the next expansion. So recently there were several release of interviews for patch 7.5, and I'm guessing also for the fan fest that's coming up for North America as well, which is literally coming to us very, very soon, right? So based on the date of this recording, the interview for this came out, looks like it was today actually. So, and then like love letters later tomorrow, and then a week from tomorrow is FanFest, right? So let's see what this article has to cover and what is in store. A North American fan festival is just a week away, with information about the next expansion package for 14 announced. Furthermore, and patch 7.5, the Road to the Beyond Part 1 will probably be implemented on April 28th, immediately after Fan Festival. With expectations high for the future, we had the opportunity to speak with 14 producer and director Naoki Yoshida about the patch 7.5. Although it was to the time when he had the least to say, this came up with a variety of words that gave hints for future developments. While you consider the hints hidden in the interview and the hints scattered throughout, the wait for the festival to begin soon. I love how frequent YoshiP is about like giving us hints about what's to come in the future for the game, and then that way we kind of, you know, have like massive hype and like anticipation, but still let us like theory craft just enough to get an idea about what we think is going on as well. So let's continue. First, let me ask about the patch title. In Japanese, it's called The Road to the Faraway Land, and the destination is not specified, but the English title is Trails of the Heavens and uses the word heavens, heaven sky. Can you tell us as much as you can about the meaning behind this word? Oops, that's a very difficult question from the beginning. Whether we translate heavens as heaven or see it as different nuances is a very difficult part to answer at this point. It contains nuances that go beyond just one meaning, so I think your understanding will deepen as you look at the story beyond just past 7.5. So does that mean that the title's worth a deep read? No, you don't have to take it that seriously, but I just want you to keep in mind that there are clear intentions. So here is the key visual art for patch 7.5. It's very interesting because, you know, you got you have us, then you have the twins, you have Sessiion, Yashola, Graha, no Thancred or Yanje, which I thought was always fascinating. There's no way the whole Sessiion kind of come like a package, you know what I mean? So it makes me wonder what happened to those two. Although I feel like they're still involved because from the special site, we go back to the moon. So we shall see. Oh my gosh, and then there's her. Starting with patch 7.4, story began to move significantly, and a new character, Ashian Haramucho, was introduced, aka Halmaret. I'm sure there are many fans who are excited about the development of patch 7.5, but it's already caused a stir on social media, with many pieces of Halmaret fan art being posted. Luckily, I feel like he's becoming a very popular character. You mean she, right? Across the global community. Was such a favorable response to be expected? To be honest, I was cautious about reintroducing characters who were more tied to Sessiions than Halmar personally. Although the identities of all the Sessiions had not been revealed in the main story so far, they were easily introduced after the big break in the story with the Dawn Trail finale. Or Dawn Moon finale, is that Endwalker, I think, actually? And the original Sessiions are gone. I want to avoid drawing in a way that would make people think, Halmar also presents herself as a character whose tone, mannerisms, and emotions are quite different from those of the previous original Sessiions. The key members of the Ancients are so popular that it is both fun and scary to see how she, who looks nothing like any of them, will be received. She is not original. That is, they are not ancient people before the division of the world. That is because she's a characteristic. Or that is a characteristic, rather. Wait, she's not part of the ancient people, but she's one of the convocations, no? There haven't been many episodes yet, but I feel like we received very good reactions in the first episode. Alex says that Halmar is feeling quite classic for this period. True. I see. So will she become a key character in the story in the future? Yes, I can assure you that I will definitely be one of those, or she'll be one of the key characters. In the story, Alex mentions that he is dressed as she's just an old-fashioned whip, but there's some kind of hint here, or it's just design. The reasons exist. I won't give a detailed answer, but it is okay to assume about her origins. Oh. Okay. You know, because okay, so when I first saw her outfit, I thought it was very Heavensward-esque. which kind of like add like a play to it, right? Because the patch is also called Trails to the Heavens. So I was trying to figure out if there really was like any kind of particular thought process to her design, but like at a quick glance though, like now that I look kind of further into it though, I don't immediately get the impression that that it is of Heavensward design, because it does look very old-fashioned, but it did not occur to me that it was going to be like related to you know, something that's like new. You know, it almost, her outfit looks very familiar. That's why I wasn't too sure. So that's actually very fascinating. As a fan, this is something that really bothers me, but will Hammer be on my side? That's it. Okay. Actually, you know what? No, that's a good question, because when you think about the way how the Endwalker story proceeded itself, especially after Shadowbringers, it kind of opens your eye a lot. So actually, it does. That's actually a really good question. At first, I was kind of like, but no, it's actually valid. It's hard to give a definitive answer, as the definition of ally changes depending on whose perspective you're taking in 14. I try to not portray it as a simple friend-foe dualism. Both Mana, who became Hydaelyn, Emet wish for the resurrection of the Zodiarch, and La Habrea, in their own view, wished for the survival or the rebirth of humanity. As for Hamura, it is likely due in part to the differences in perspective. If I had to say, it might be an ally of what lives on the planet. I think it would be interesting to see her pay attention not only to her personal character, but to also the setting of her seat. Yeah, so if you want like some clarification, basically she's like the seed of harvest. She's like very much involved in like the plant life and like life itself. So like her seat in the convocation was really much involved around that kind of particularity. So she's very much like the plant lady. If I had to give like a quick little like funny like comment to it. So her obsession potentially with trying to revitalize or give life or extend on life is a real high likelihood of what we might be seeing going into the new expansion. The thing though is that her connection to the Winterers is still something that has to be like seen, so we have not a clue. But the Winterers give an immediate impression, and also because of where they're staying is in the far north in the Blind Frost, that we're going to be entering a winter expansion, which we've kind of sort of had like the snowy seasonal expansion with Heavensward, right? So if it does decide to go back to that era, then that would be very fascinating. The thing is that like I haven't a clue what we could possibly expect, because as much as Dawn Trail was like the summer vacation expansion basically, but it definitely took a really crazy turn, and the seasonal like changes didn't really like showcase any immediacy of like what kind of weather we might be like dealing with. But I feel like with her concept in mind, you know, a lot of the concept and themes of like Dawn Trail were about being able to like accept death and like living and like retaining your memories and like accepting that like death is like not a factor, right? So the difference is that for her, I feel like with Helmer, like death is something that she tries to preserve as much as possible through the power of life, right? At least to kind of like delay it as farther as possible in order to like survive and like that whole spiel. I don't really know though, because I feel like you know, her ability of what she can do with like her power is very small detail that we see, but it has a lot of value. So it really depends on like what we might be seeing. I have no clue though. So because she could be following a very similar functionality of like revitalizing the like the vision of what it once was before the Sundering, but like that was Emmett Selk's vision, right? So like the theory that I had in my head was that she was basically going to commit to her own variation of the Final Days, but whatever failed in the Final Days from like the Emmett Selk and like Fandaniel perspective will be different than what she tries to achieve, right? So at least in my mind, I wonder if like she's aware, because that's the one thing I still, they haven't really explained, is if like Amara's involvement, or sorry, not involvement, her observation of what Fandaniel and Emmett Selk tried to do that didn't work because of our involvement was something that she took into accountability for her process, right? So at least in my mind, if Hamura is aware of the Final Days, which I feel like she should be, then she's probably working on something that's going to be different than what they've attempted, but it has better like solidification in terms of the actual like execution of revitalizing the world as it once was. But again, like no idea. So let's keep reading. But no, yes, she's an ally of the planet. Sorry, the email. Okay, well, the details of Helmer's new reason uttered in the end of patch 7.4 be revealed at the upcoming North American Fan Festival. The North American Fan Festival is before the release of patch 7.5, so we won't be touching it there. Play 7.5 and you'll find out right away. I don't mean to drag out the word for too long, but it's that part that touches on the next great ordeal or goal, so please look forward to the release of the patch. Yeah, so you can kind of get an idea of it here, right? So in the main quest, like, we're going back to the moon. Helmer is actually here looking down on Aetheris, and it seems like to me, though, like, my immediate thought process is that she somehow has access to the void. And you kind of sort of know this potentially because of the way how the trial appears for Enuo. So Enuo is a super boss, an optional boss, specifically from Final Fantasy V Advance. He's very, very similar to Exdeath in the sense of like having like control of the void. The difference though is that he essentially is like an evil warlock, but also it was like he was like not a century, is it a millennium prior to the event of FF5. So like basically he eventually sacrifices he was immortal basically, and he sacrifices immortality in order to gain control of the void. And then the thing is that like he got sealed into the interdimensional rift. He didn't actually get like killed, for example. And that's the power that Exdeath was trying to seek in the process, and then he actually re-released the void. So that's essentially like what it was. So Animal basically was found in like a sealed temple this entire time. So it makes me wonder how that's gonna like portray itself outward, because the thing is like we deal with Exdeath in the raid series, right, with like Delta Escape, but the thing is that it's part of the Omega series, and he like his whole perspective is giving you like what is it, like a test basically, right? Like he gives you like simulations to fight. So it actually makes me wonder if Enuo is currently involved in the upcoming trial, that we might actually see like Exdeath also potentially. It may not seem like it though, because the actual design of Exdeath and Neo Exdeath that we saw in the Delta Escape series was used in full. So if they were to try and use Exdeath and Neo Exdeath again, they'd have to recreate the design, which I feel like would be challenging. So we'll see. But there's a clear involvement with the void in this case scenario. So he said he was being cautious about the reappearance of the Sessiions after the story of the Ancients had come to a close, but I wonder if the Sessiions will remain at the center of the story after 7.5. Sessiions is not center of the story, but there is a planet, Aetheris, where the Ancients are active. The world is divided, and Sessiion secrets activities connect us to the present. Therefore, Sessiion's position is that one of the elements that cannot be lacking as being, because it has various influences on the past. There are already names for the organizations such as the Preservation and the Winterers. Sessiions is also one of the larger gears in the world structure. Oh. The Preservers and the Winterers. Interesting. Well, okay, so if I was to read that, right? Here's kind of how I can perceive it. Right, so like the Sessiions and the Convocation and all of them, even though they are heavily responsible for like the creation of life across the entire board for like all the times that, you know, because they're responsible for creating everything, and Walker kind of gave that idea. They are like, it sounds like they're like an organization basically, right? So if the Sessiions are responsible for creating the life of things that can be, right, then it makes me wonder what the Winterers and what the Preservation like organizations are, right? Because the Preservers are also something different, and so are the Winterers. So if we have the Convocation of 14 with the Sessiions and all of the Ancients in that regard, I wonder if the Winterers are like another type of Ancients basically. It's possible if that's what it is. It's almost like having like Sessiions in black cloak with like their masks, and then Winterers are like wearing blue cloaks. or but like, you know, but they're not Ascians, right? Like it's actually like two completely different organizations, but they're both heavily involved with like the creation of like the world. It, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Pokemon. You know how like Palkia is the god of like space, and then Dialga is the god of time, but like they both kind of like need each other to create the world as it is, but they also use like Giratina and like an Arceus and that whole spiel. Yo, Pokemon reference. It kind of reminds me of like that. So you kind of need like to create that, like, you know, the creationism of everything is not done by like one set of people, it's done by like a multitude, right? So I'm thinking that like the Ascians are group A, Winters are group B, and then the Preservers are group C basically, but they're all involved in the way how the world is structured. It makes me wonder like how they might, I don't know how, I don't know what kind of direction they'll go into as well. I'm very curious now that it's translated to the idea that like, you know, the different orgs that exist are those three, you know, because then maybe like, you know, there's like more to this than we realize. Anywho, in the Hydaelyn Zodiac arc, we have depicted the clash between two factions originating from the ancients. So rather than depicting the conflict structures between light and darkness again, a different approach will be the main focus. I see. So please let me know what you think is interesting about the main story of Patch 7.5 and what you would like to see highlighted. As a result of the emphasis on Zero's story in second half of Patch 6.x, the transition to 7.0 felt a bit rushed and lacked volume. I see this as a point of reflection. Okay, which is fair, because a lot of people were very like, oh cool, like Zero's story is like completed, she's like there forever. And then Dawntrail came out and people were like, okay, so we basically like fought Golbez and stopped Zeroma, closed the void temporarily, and let Zero like guard like the entrance, and now we're going on vacation. So it does seem a bit rushed. I understand that actually. In Patch 7.5 Part 1, the first half serves as a major turning point for the bridge of the story and bridge for the story. But from Part 2 onwards, it devotes a lot of time to Patch 8.0 and the bigger developments to come. You'll get a clear sense of the story moving on to the next stage. Additionally, North America will be held before Part 1 of the main quest, and a European Fan Festival will be held before Part 2. So, if you view the information that will be announced there as kind of a main quest, then we think you'll enjoy the live feel of that only in real time that we can provide. So yeah, I feel like we will at least get the trailer for the for 7.5, which will give us an idea about like what we could be expecting, but there's still details that they really can't fully disclose until after the festivals are over. But the thing is, like, we should be getting some, because the keynote is like 2 hours and change, so we will be getting like some details about 8.0, at least from like a small story perspective. And like I kind of expect them to go into some detail about what we might be like keeping an eye out for, but it won't be fully revealed, at least for 7.5 story. Like, we're not going to get the segue bridge from 7.5 to 8.0 will not be there for the first two live letter or FanFest rather, but at least we're going to get like an idea of like the potential direction that it goes into and how that gets involved. But it won't disclose any information for 7.5, which I think is interesting. So we'll see. Gerald and Marin don't seem to be leaving yet. Next, we asked about the new field. Oh, for Crescent Island North Expedition. Okay, yeah. Tell us what you see in the area in the screenshots released. It looks like a cold region, but I wonder if atmosphere in the area will be very different from the expansion arc. It's an exploration of an unknown island, so it's a big change from the landscape that we've seen before. There's also a setting where cultures from a specific era are recreated in a chaotic manner, and multiple cultures appear in each area in the Northern Expedition arc. The map is built on a zero-base basis, and rather than simply expanding the area, it's a new area created from scratch. Does this mean that the volume of the area is on the same scale as Southern? It's okay to consider them roughly equivalent. Okay. It seems pretty spacious. Can you also tell us about the difference between normal and hard in the New Fork Tower, Devil's Tower? Of course. The pure difficulty level varies, but the boss's HP changes depending on the number of participants, both normal and hard, making it easier for you to tackle both large and small groups. Normal's Tower of Evil strategy is also included in the quest completion conditions, so you can have a lot of fun. The entry conditions are now easier, and there are no resuscitation restrictions, so we hope you will continue to take on the challenge. We have a number of gimmicks that only exist on hard, of course. The map is also designed to avoid making too much of a difference in the experience, but to allow hard to take a more complex walkthrough route. Normal is easy to play as it allows you to progress without breaking down the party, and there's no resuscitation restrictions. It said that it can be compromised by other people. First of all, for normal players, as mentioned above, the boss's HP is adjusted dependent on the number of participants, so it depends on the support job and the equipment development status, but it can also be completed solo. huh, being able to solo Fork Tower magic will be interesting, because I don't even think you can solo Fork, not Fork Tower, sorry, Delirium Regine, like DR normal. I don't think you can even solo DR normal. Actually, I don't know if that's true. I mean, personally, I've never tried, but if you did attempt it, like, you specifically need like a bard or a healer, which is like, you know, so I don't actually know. If you know that you can do DR normal, let me know, because I've never tried it, but I never thought that you could, so I didn't bother trying. So it's interesting that you can try it solo. So I mean, I'm curious. If you're a hard hitter, you need these 12 people to consider to conquer, including elements along the way, and it is advantageous to have a good training system, including support jobs and equipment. Please keep in mind that proper training is essential, especially if you're taking a challenge with just that right number of people. Are there plans to add normal difficulty to the existing Tower of Power? There are currently no plans to add a normal difficulty for Tower of Power. It's not required for the content for the quest clear. However, the addition of support jobs will further strengthen the player, so it's possible to train them further and make it a challenge. And if we can still see it as a tough situation, we'll consider adjusting the balance, so we would appreciate your feedback. Well, we're not getting a normal version, which is like really unfortunate, but it's okay. In the previous PLL, it was announced that the current format of Phantom Weapon will be separated this time. What form is envisaged for the next and subsequent editions? Okay. I'm sorry, but let me refrain from going into details at this time. We plan to announce this in various future announcements. Weapon enhanced content introduces the first generation MMO-like element of get stronger for the time that you take from the new 14 era is a fun option. However, with the increasing number of jobs and the emphasis on disposable time, modern players feel that the current format is reaching its limits. There is a strong discrepancy between the opinion that it is not difficult and the opinion that it's too burdensome. And I think that it's time to reconsider the whole thing when we return to the beginning of the fun of allowing characters to develop weapons and armor. We would like to present new forms of weapons and armor enhancement play and mechanics in the future. So for the time being, we'll take a break from strengthening weapons in their current form. I hope you'll wait for FanFest and other information about alternatives. Yeah, so I will say the relic system was okay. So in my personal opinion, the relic system peaked in the best version of it that we had ever gotten was Baja, and I think that Eureka is a very close second. If I'll say, for example, if you were able to customize the stats for the Eureka weapons, then I think that the Eureka version is actually the best version. But you can't technically, right? It gives you the elemental bonus, and you can pencil your weapon, but the weapon doesn't have any like immediate massive value. The Baja weapon is powerful because you can take 4 stats and put them in any way that you'd like to. And all those stats become inclusive. So if the weapons for Hydalos and Physios were able to do the exact same thing, then those weapons would be very powerful as well. You know, because you can customize stats. So Endwalker has a similar situation, but the thing is, like, the Endwalker, you know, relic acquisition was not people's favorite. It definitely gave you a push to do Mandeville story, which I think is great, but I feel like it was also like a little bit unnecessary. And for the Phantom relics, I actually don't mind them all too much, but there is an issue that I have at the moment where like, for example, you can't actually start working towards the relic until you complete the step necessary to unlock the vendor for the relic, right? You have to trade your non-weekly tomes that are not poetics in order to acquire the material, in order to trade that material and like acquire the weapon. But you can't work on it at all until you effectively complete that step, right? So the current step that we have is to acquire the crystal paste. You need 1200 in total in order to even unlock the vendor to start getting the obscure weapons. So what will be nice is that you can, because, like, you know, you're going to have like an excess of those tomes. So if I could spend the tomes in the meantime while working in the relic step, at least that way I can like start hoarding them, and then when I'm ready to trade all of them in mass, I can do so. But you can't. You have to wait until you complete the step. So I prefer the Bajan version of the relic step, but again, like, we already knew that they were planning on changing the relic system even before patch 7.4's release. So I'm still like totally okay with the fact that they've admitted that they're like aware that they can't talk about the relic stuff, because like during the FanFest keynotes, I'm guessing the European one will be the one, but they're gonna make an announcement about some of the changes that they're gonna be talking about with regards to how they develop the game moving forward, and the relic is part of that. Because again, like the relic system, the UI, the totems, the way that you acquire gear and loot, a lot of this apparently is changing going into 8.0. I think 7.5 is going to be the final patch, as they said, where the system and how it works with like everything that we've been so used to for so long is changing immensely. Like a lot of things are changing. So, that includes like how you get gear, what the gear does, like, the item levels, the gear, the job stuff, like a lot of stuff is just changing. So like, but again, we're not going to know how any of that actually works until we actively see what it looks like. So, but this makes sense that he's not willing to like share details about it, because like chances are 7.5 relic is probably going to incorporate a small step in the direction of how they want you to acquire this stuff. So like, we shall see. Okay, well, the connection with Gerald will also be severed. He's a reluctant character, so I don't feel like he'll appear in a different form. Verena and Gerald's relationship has continued for a long time, and I think that they may become subquests in some ways. Will there be a break there too? When Matsuno created Save the Queen, he delved into Gerald and Verena and drew them so that there hasn't been any story about how they met. But since they are two people with very strong characters, I think that they will probably be involved in some way. It's a shame that Geralt has been making weapons all this time, and they have a bit of a desire to let him make other things too. Oh, you know what? That's actually kind of an interesting idea, because again, like he's totally right? All the relics have only ever been tied to weapons. Artifact gear is there too, and you definitely, the last time we had artifact gear since Dawntrail prior was Stormblood. So, because in Shadowbringers there was an artifact gear that you can acquire with like the relic concept in mind, and same thing with Endwalker. So like the gear you get in Occult Crescent is very valuable in Occult Crescent, right? It's very, very powerful, and it's going to retain that as well going into the Northhorn, which I think is really good. So the thought of Geralt actually working on weapons and armor and potentially other things would be very fascinating. If I could just like chime in what I think that he should do, I mean, personally, I think weapons and armor is stellar, and I'd even like for there to be a way to acquire like mounts and minions and framer kits and that stuff too, because like I don't see why he doesn't have the ability to like build that stuff, right? So like I'd be very curious to see how that may come into place, you know what I mean? So fingers crossed they have like they can like kind of sort of like figure it out. I think that it has the opportunity to be like absolutely incredible. So there you go. Next, FF11 is a modern-day PS2 out-of-place game. Next, we'll ask about Winter's Third Walk, which concludes the echoes of Vana'diel. Can you tell us the characteristics of the new area? We talked about this during the second installment, but the original and ongoing FF11 is a big senior for us, and there are truly mountains of lands and bosses that have made an impression on players. It's precisely because we can't paint the whole story in this 14 Alliance raid that we decided to recreate the most memorable areas of each region, even if they are discontinuous. That setup won't change this time either, but I'm trying to get to a point where I feel a certain sense of accomplishment while playing FF11, so this time I'm going to go quite far. It doesn't change the structure of the area itself, but expect to see areas and bosses that go deeper. Okay. A screenshot has been released showing Shantotto cut from behind, but will it still look blurry this time around? It's hard to imagine this person coming out and not being able to make a mistake. However, since she is an Archmage, I think she will also master the magic of Eorzea. It's a great blend of FF11 and 14 I think you might enjoy. Voices are also included, so stay tuned. I hope that it's the same voice. Her ultimate attack during her fight is definitely going to be her doing like the oh ho 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 laugh the whole time. It's going to be so funny, dude. I can't wait. Screenshots also include an area of, again, the social media has been buzzing about whether there will be a besiege-like effect. It would be unnatural to create so many locations and end it with only boss battles, so I created a strong presentation and battle. We are currently making adjustments after taking full-length feedback. In the early stages, I was too conscious of a besiege, while it took away from the tempo, so now I'm prioritizing the fun of 14 as content, extracting the essence while making the final adjustments to the areas where it feels more like FF11. Is it okay to expect the appearance of the 5-snake general? That's a pinpoint question. Development resources are limited, so now let's see how it's portrayed. Each player has a different character that they care about, so expectations are high. I heard that there has been progress on the song as well. Yes, it is used in the climax scene where the story builds to a climax. To a climax. Speaking of FF11, this is Naoshi Mizuta, composer of Square Enix, so he wrote a new song for us. If there are many requests, it may be possible to implement it on the FF11 side. That'd be really cool if like the song is so good in 14 that they put it in 11 also. I think that'd be so fire actually. So that's really cool. You said you were a big senior, but what do you think about Yoshida's greatness about FF11 at the time? For example, of all the Super Famicom games released so far, I consider Tactics Ogre to be the game that has mastered the art, craftsmanship, game design, and story, while FF11 is the game that has been released for the PlayStation 2, hereafter referred to as the PS2. I think it's a miraculous title that perfectly combines the craftsmanship that no one else has achieved, that can achieve with the technology of the time. There were many parts of the game that players were enthusiastic about, but for someone who played the many North American MMORPGs at the time, the menacing technical capabilities left a strong impression on me. First of all, the texture tiling technology is so amazing that it makes no sense. I can't see any loop seams, textures back when they were drawn with dots, so I don't create textures from photographic materials like I do now, but I have no idea what textures loop when they line up in 4 directions. Not just the floor, but the walls, stone pillars, and everything else. Textures at the time had memory transfer speed issues when they were very limited in capacity, with materials from all parts arranged pixel by pixel in one texture and then compressed, but the arrangement was also abnormal. Of course, that many textures cannot be deployed all at once in the PS2 small memory capacity. To do this, there's a program called Garbage Collection that dynamically reads the contents of memory from the hard disk and endlessly repeats the process of discarding unwanted items from memory garbage collection in FF11. It's an out-of-place perfection that seems to anticipate modern streaming technology. It doesn't bug, and I've never seen such stable garbage collection. That's the foundation for bringing design quality and the concept of jobs and support jobs, all that unique equipment to the PS2. It is only through such craftsmanship that we have been able to create a game design that makes FF11 fun, so I don't think it's possible to make one in this day and age. Of course, there are more useful middleware out there now, and there are many ways to achieve this, but at the time it was impossible to achieve without doing it. The impact of the time may be something special that only those who actually experience it can understand. Even if you look at it again now, you can see how amazing the texture is. Even in places where the seams are not visible, I hope you will experience the surprise of wondering if this actually worked on the PS2. The Demon Beastmaster can be summoned by switching between 3 Demon Beasts, but maybe there'll be some interpersonal warfare in the future. Next, we'll ask about the new job, Demon Beastmaster. The announced job-specific equipment is reminiscent of the Beastmaster from FF5, but why did they use FF11 style one-handed axe instead of the whip that they use in FF5? I mean, this we need the answer to, so... I think the whip in the FF5 era is like a circus that trains animals, but I thought that it might not be appropriate for today's world. In this job quest, the theme is that there is a bond between the Beastmaster and the Beast, so I thought that the whip might be a little different. Since we aimed for a style in which the Beastmaster not only uses his own power, but also borrows the power of the Beast and fights in cooperation with the Beast, we didn't want the Beastmaster to appear extremely strong on his own. Also, some of the characters in FF14, such as Beast King Lion, have the image of the Beast Tamer, so I decided it'd be better to have them follow that image to fit the worldview. In the job quest, the question of why it's a one-handed axe comes up in a few lines. Okay. It says that you can play completely solo, but I wonder if you can also capture monsters solo. It can be solo or at a party. It may be more efficient to form a party, but if you want to work on your way through it on your own, we have a route that you can definitely join as a solo player, so we think you'll enjoy it depending on your playstyle. Is there only one monster you can take with you? There is always one that can be put on the field in the sense that it can be carried, but to talk a bit about the system, there's a whistle that can summon magical beasts, and depending on the level, up to 3 can be used at the same time. By registering your favorite monster from the Demon Beast Encyclopedia and the flute, you can switch and summon at any time. The Demon Beast Encyclopedia can be opened at any time except during battle, so you can open it and register another Demon Beast to switch between summoning Demon Beasts at any time. I think it depends on the person, whether they like the look of the beast or have raised it and become attached to it. But I try to do a lot of things to show off when carrying it around. The whistle is not just about being able to register 3 minions, but it is involved in the battle system itself. Oh, okay, yeah, so I mean, from what I've kind of like mental gathered about it, Beastmaster respectfully just sounds like melee summoner, which is actually fire. So like I'm just curious to see how it'll play itself out, because I feel like it has a lot of like unique ability in its processing, so I would love to get like a really like deep dive glimpse into playing Beastmaster when it comes out. So we'll definitely follow that a bit. And you called me even in town? Yes. So everyone's gonna bring out the behemoth in the middle of like Limsa and then just watch them bring down like the meteor every single time. It'd be so wild. It might break Limsa, like low key. I'm not gonna lie. Is there a chance that in the future there'll be PvP content where players compete against each other using the magical beast that they've raised? That is a great question. Because people were saying that it's kind of similar to Pokemon, so I wonder if there's like a similarity by concept. Originally, during the planning stage, there was talk of there would be some interpersonal warfare. It will depend on your feedback in the future, but I would like to think about expanding the scope of play. It was originally created as an in-game game, or rather as if there was another game within 14. Which makes sense because they've talked about that like quite a bit with like a lot of other games and ideas that, you know, like we have the Fall Guys collab, for example. Like the Fall Guys collab is a game within the game, right? So that's really cool. So they want to try and make more of those, and so this being part of that makes a lot of sense. So I think it's quite capable of developing into something that allows you to try playing yet another game using that environment. There were many ideas for the project, and one idea was to team up with Gambit to fight. I'll show you the future feedback and see if you enjoy just raising monsters to join, or if you want a content that combines what you raise to fight and then think about it again. If they make a PvP mode that like only uses Beastmaster, that'd be so sick, dude. Dope, there's that. It's time to make a big change to the game cycle. I think this is the big like finale thing that people are talking about. I mean, at least in conversation, right? The patch so far seems to include several fixes, including Mirage Prisms and other parts that are fundamental to the system. Can you ask me what direction you plan to take to change 14 in the future? In fact, okay. Sorry, let me try again. In fact, you may have noticed that we've already started to see some changes since patch 7.4. It was the timing of the start of development in patch 7.2 that made me decide to make some clear changes of policy. The life cycle of 14 from now on, the social situation, and the taste preferences of our customers. For example, the younger generation places a high value on typos. And even we old gamers really don't have disposable time. When I saw them as game designers all over the world again, I knew it was a time to change. In MMORPGs, it's especially important to focus on the core of the game design, known as the game cycle, and I'd like to make some big changes here. It's difficult because major updates are so sudden. There's no time for you to prepare, and it takes a ridiculous amount of man hours, but you can't get there unless you plan, discuss, outline, define specifications, and develop it as a whole team. For example, changing the specifications of the Mirage Prism is something that can be done fairly quickly if you decide to do it, so I decided to continue doing major updates as well as things that require development, effort, and QA in time. That's the whole Glamour release system. True. As for the colorants, even our development team has a bag full of them, so we want to do something about it soon. Oh, really? Okay. I came up with various ideas for creating a dedicated UI, but I decided that it would be easier and quicker to understand, to put it together, and then to create a dedicated UI. We apply that to all sorts of things. Cool. All I can show you right now is that the scope of major updates, but I also plan to show you that among the first various announcements. I can only do it in the context of huge updates. First of all, I want you to look forward to the fan festival. I think there are certainly voices saying that if we do it for a long time, we don't need to change anything, but I believe that progress is what creates development, and we need challenges for ourselves. I think it would be more fun as a game if you took the plunge and asked everyone to follow you again. And finally, a message for the fans. Patch 7.5 marks the finale of the 7.x series, and the story is about to change positively and dramatically. Like the previous Daragubu Falling, we cherish the live feel that can only be experienced now. That's Dalamed, by the way. That's the 2.0. Okay. I had to like translate that in my head for like a minute. And the real emphasis and in-game story linked together. I believe that the workflow development and standardization are very important to ensure that we can consistently provide stable, high-quality products. However, if you do too much, it will lead to boredom and you will fall within the predicted range. I've pretty much taken off the upcoming announcements and their content, so I hope you enjoy this live feel. Patch 7.5 is a little long in duration, but it also contains a lot of content, so I hope you enjoy playing purely first. Amazing. So honestly, I'm really excited to see what further details we have in store for this too. So the main takeaway that I would say out of this article is like, one, the direction of the story adds a lot of potential value, as well as like what we could be expecting moving into the future of 14. And I think the other major point is that a lot of the things that they've been doing for such a long time are under the impression of like getting not like deprecated, but you know, they're getting updated. So I'm expecting a lot of old functionalities and what we've been doing for so many years to start getting changes, because again, like, even in this article, he covers the fact that certain things that have been used for so long are starting to create that sense of like boredom, and then like it's not really having a lot of value and like a whole lot of other stuff, right? And I think on top of that as well, he understands that like 14 is a live service game and it has to meet the demands of the player base, but of course it requires like a lot of time and effort. So my hope is that they basically take as much opportunity as possible to create content or design content moving forward that enables people to have an intrigue where the replayability factor of that content can persist continuously even after patches and updates come, right? I think the most immediate examples that come into my mind are like the ultimates, right? Because people love trying to attempt ultimates from time to time. It doesn't matter whether you clear it one time or 4,000 times. Eventually, you go in there at least more than once. And then the Chaotic Alliance raid. Chaotic Alliance raid is actually I think it's like the secret sauce to their content development. Being able to give players an incentive towards a reward that is grindy and lengthy but gives you like an increased bonus chance is something that I feel like they could really take into accountability. It would make a lot of sense for them to do that, because that way they can keep their players busy and happy and kind of working towards something while also still making new content for the game to come, right? So we shall see. But to my personal understanding though, like this article was great. It was really helpful to understand a lot of what we're looking forward to, and also the story. Whatever they got cooking in the story has got to be so insane. Like, if they're trying to like recreate like an epic that's as familiar but similar to like the fall of the moon from Dalamid, that's gonna be nuts. So yeah, I don't know, but I have faith that whatever they're cooking up right now is going to be incredible on release. But that being said, though, we have only 24 hours, or less than even, until the actual live letter for patch 7.5. And then, of course, a week from then, we have officially the North American Fan Festival. And I'm very, very excited for both of them. So I'm hoping that you are as well. So that's article number 2 for us. And thank you so much for listening to me read as quickly and as weird as possible. It was I'm really, these articles just make me more and more excited about what's to come, so I can't wait to keep on reading. And so we have one more to listen to and read into, so we'll do that. And of course, I'm very excited to find out what details there are in that one. So thank you so much for watching and tuning in. I appreciate it. And of course, as always, I will see you in the next one. Take care.